Welcome back to Stashbusting. Now, it's been a little while for you, but it's moments for me since we last talked about this project. So yeah, cardigan's still in pieces. But in my last instalment, I talked about please send your suggestions for how I should block the shawl. And I was talking about possibly throwing it in the washing machine to see what happened. And basically, I'm too impatient to wait for your suggestions, and I'm just going to do it. And that's largely because I want to wear it. I want to wear it as soon as possible. So I've got some hand knit socks that also need washing, so I'll put the washing machine on a wool cycle and see what happens. I have had this yarn shrink and felt on me before in the washing machine, but I'm pretty sure that that was on a standard cycle and not a wool cycle. It's always a risk, isn't it? But I've had good success with this wool cycle on this washing machine before, even though it is quite aggressive. I think it just washes at 20 degrees basically. And that's all I really need. I just want to wash it to soften it up and hopefully even out. I imagine that the reason why, you can really see it there, this edge is kind of fluty compared to the rest of it is because the garter stitch is a lot stretchier than the cables. So anyway, let's see what happens. I'm too impatient. Autumn is here and I want to wear my shawl. So after working all of yesterday evening on the button band for Woody's cardigan, I realised too late that, I don't know. Essentially, I need 6 buttonholes. I have 6 buttonholes, but at the tension I was knitting them, I was very short of the end of the front section. Now, it told me to space the buttonholes apart based on width in the ribbing, which I did. But because you sew it on as you go along, I was doing a flat seam. That's what it recommends for the ribbing, to use a flat seam. It took me a couple of times to get a finish that I was happy with, and I had to I've never seen anything about, basically because I have the edge, the garter stitch edge of the cabled section, and then the first stitch is a knit stitch in the rib. I had to make up my own thing that worked for me. I tried to find instructions for joining like garter stitch to stocking stitch, but nothing, I couldn't get it to work for me basically. So I made something up that worked for me. I'm going to have to undo it all and re-knit the buttonholes to be further apart. Now, because I've been matching row for row, the ribbing to the body of the work, because I've been doing a flat seam, I know exactly that I'm 10 rows short of the top, and conveniently that just means I need to put 2 extra rows between buttonholes, because 6 buttonholes, that's 5 gaps. 10 divided by 5 is 2. It just means I'm going to have to rip back the ribbing all the way to there and undo all the sewing at the same time, which, I mean, I tried to start doing yesterday evening, but it was just too dark. I couldn't see what I was doing. So here we go instead. Part of me is like, maybe it's time to put a film on or something, get cozy and settle in. I'd also forgotten how this yarn is actually very tough going on the hands to knit. This finger, because I'm a continental knitter, is so chapped at the moment, and I'm like, what the hell, what am I doing? And it's knitting with this very coarse yarn. Looking forward to when this one is done and I'm back on my 2-ply cashmere project. Oh, and lamb's wool. That's much more gentle on the skin. I've already got a low battery warning, so let's keep this short. I finished Woody's cardigan. Here it is. It still needs buttons. I did get him to try it on last night. It is too small. It's too small. I'll put the little clip in here. Is it good?
Oh, it feels nice. Oh, it does feel nice.
Oh no, it is a bit small. It's quite tight.
That's right. I'll slim into it.
No, I don't think your shoulders.
Oh. I can slim my shoulders.
I think what happened was, looking at this, I did the calculations for the gauge and everything, and I was like, oh, it should fit. The sizing is 38 to 39, and Woody's more like on the 39 to 40 end, and I went down, and I probably should have gone up. However, I wouldn't have been able to finish the cardigan because I only have, this is 25 grams of wool left, so it wouldn't have worked out anyway. I would have run out of yarn, for definite. So that's a little disappointing. I won't lie, I'm really disappointed about the fact that it doesn't fit. Another aspect of this is, of course, I measured, it's based on chest measurement, and I measured Woody's chest. Woody is a carpenter, a joiner, that's why he's called Woody. He's all shoulder. I didn't even think about that, and he's like, busted out of the cardigan. So, yes, it's my cardigan now, but it does still need buttons. In terms of stash busting, I just weighed this and the numbers don't add up. So I don't know if I counted the balls of wool and the weights have changed over time. Anyway, it has used 13.5 balls of wool. However, I'm counting this as 14 because this is not going in the stash. This is going in the mending stash. So 14 balls of wool off the total. Despite looking at it 5 minutes ago before I started filming, I'd forgotten already. The total was 121.25 balls of wool minus 14 takes us to 107.25 balls of wool in the stash. Mwah! We are so close to that sweet spot of where I like to keep it, which is under 100. So I have some ideas for what I'm going to do to get under 100. Obviously I have my lace cardigan that I'm working on, but I've got to a tricky bit with the stripes and I don't have the brain power for that at the moment. So I've got to think of what else I'm going to do. But I'll update you with that once I've changed the camera battery and maybe had some lunch. Since finishing Woody's cardigan, I've been really struggling to decide what to do next with my knitting, because what I should do is go back to my cashmere cardigan, but I've really lost inspiration on that because I just want to get to under 100, and there's no way that that project will, I mean, it might not even take like one ball of wool off, or maybe one, but 2, 3, maybe maximum. And I want to get there now. I'm so impatient. I just want to get there, well, at least before the end of the year. So I've been trying to think about what else I can make, but I've started lots of things and I've not really gotten very far. So I have this navy blue wool that I also got from the estate sale, which is also Aran, and I've got 10 balls of that. Is it 10? I think a few more. So, well, I could definitely make a cardigan. It's about 1,000 meters, so I could definitely make a cropped cardigan or something with that, and that would be a really good way to knock a big chunk off. So I made a swatch. I get the right gauge if I use the suggested needles, but I don't really have any patterns for an Aran weight cardigan. And I looked for things on Ravelry and nothing inspired. I wanted something vintagey, and so I thought about trying to recreate a cardigan pattern I've made before, but in an Aran weight yarn. And I did a test to try and make this like faux cable thing work. Couldn't really get it to work. Ended up trying to also do it from the top down. It didn't work, so I ended up ripping it all out. So I haven't made any progress there. That was really demoralising. I then had the bright idea to try some crochet instead, and I had this tiny little bit of acrylic left from when I made that Victorian Spencer. This went on, was the trim that went on there. I thought, well, let's make something that I wouldn't normally make, that is suitable to be donated, seeing as that this is acrylic. And so I made one of these little bandanas that are really trendy, these crochet bandanas. And because it's pink yarn and sort of pink and purple flecked, I thought, I bet there's like a teen girl somewhere that would love this. So I made this, and I did use, like, this is all the yarn I have left. I haven't even cut it off yet. This should be a quarter of a ball of wool to come off the total. So that would bring us down to 107 and... yeah, just 107, a quarter off the total. This was really fun. Took like an afternoon, and now I don't know what to do again. So, So in the end, I just got over myself and carried on with the cashmere cardigan, and I've actually been really enjoying it. Now I'm back into the flow of it. I think it was just one of those things. I had to sit down and concentrate and remember what I was doing with the stripes and what I was doing with remember the lace pattern and all of that. But once I actually got it, I mean, I'm really nearly done here. I've got like a few more repeats to finish the fronts. Didn't take any time at all, really. And it was really enjoyable to knit. I think I will be carrying on with this one as sort of my main project at the moment, just because having gotten back into the flow of it, I don't want to put it down again and forget again. I've got the fronts nearly done. I've done the back, so it's the sleeves, and they're calling it the strapping, the rib around the neck, that I've got to knit. And it looks like actually that's knit in double knitting or brioche, which I've never done before, so that'll be interesting. As for my navy blue yarn, I dug through my vintage knitting pattern stash because I was sure I had some slightly heavier patterns, and I did, but they're all mostly 80s. So I pulled out this one because I didn't think it wasn't too much, let's put it that way. I've got a lot of very fun, eccentric 80s patterns, which are great, and maybe I'll make one day, but they're not right for this. So I pulled out this one, which is Sardar. Yeah. And I thought, this is right, it's okay. I don't know whether I love it, but then I think it might be the styling. I think she looks like Princess Diana, Sloane. Anyway, I've given this one a go, and I've started it with the navy blue yarn, and I've done my first pattern repeat, and this was sort of, I mean, this is the thing, you can't see it at all, can you? This was sort of an extended swatch, so I started with a front and was like, well, I'll do a pattern repeat because it's a big pattern repeat, and make sure I'm definitely getting the right gauge, and also see whether I like it or not. But like with navy blue yarn, you just don't see the stitch detail at all. So I mean, I struggle to get the camera to pick it up even. You can just about see that there's a cable there, and that's not really even the camera's fault. I can't really see that it's there anyway. So I don't know whether I want to carry on with this, because what's the point of knitting all those cables and all that texture if nobody's going to see it? So would I be better off making like just a plain stockinette cardigan, in which case should I do something more simple, one piece in the round, pick up the sleeves and knit them from the top down, you know? Because the other thing about this, which I hadn't realised, was there's no armhole shaping. The fronts are just a rectangle with a bit of shaping for the neckline. And that's what's creating that very 80s. All the lights have just switched on because they're done on sensor. Maybe that might help you see this. Ever so slightly. But yeah, if I'm going to be making a really bog standard rectangular cardigan with dropped sleeves, I don't think I want it to be this one. I wouldn't mind it in this yarn. So maybe I sort of follow the stitch counts and don't do the pattern, and just make a really easy bog standard cardigan. I don't know. I feel like maybe I should... I'll look again and see if anything jumps out at me. Maybe because I'm not bothered about making something wearable from this yarn. I don't really want a navy blue Aran cardigan. Maybe I look for something on Ravelry that's more about an interesting project for me. So some construction technique I don't normally do, or a new pattern designer or something like that, and see if I can make this. Because it is nice quality yarn. It is nice and soft and squishy. I just don't think I'd wear anything from it. It's kind of round and springy, which is probably why it's not very good for texture. I don't know, because now I'm looking at it, it looks quite rich as a result of all those cables and stuff, but I'd have to block it quite aggressively to get it to be the right gauge anyway. So do I want to carry on with this? I don't know. Let's leave it on hold for now and work on this one instead. You'll have to excuse the noise of the laptop fan, which sounds like an aircraft taking off. Thinking about this pattern and whether I want to carry on with it in my navy blue. This was the yarn, by the way. It's discontinued now, but lovely quality. And the internet says it's merino. It just says wool. Anyway, so I've put into Ravelry all my criteria. The yardage requirements, the yarn weight, language, knitting, colours used, typically 1, age, size, fit, I've just put adult. And something has struck me, which I'd never really, I suppose I'd sort of noticed it, but I'd never joined the dots up in the way that looking at this pattern has made me realise, because I've sorted by most popular. Now, the first few options are very bog standard. They're all Florence Miller, Amy Christophers, and Petite Knit. Those are 3 designers in the first 5, 6 search results. So there's obviously a trend at the moment, right? Lots of them. I mean, like, so step-by-step cardigan, that must be a pattern designed for beginners, which is probably why it's most popular. But we've got here consistently some things I have observed. So yarn held double with a strand of mohair, dropped shoulders, positive ease, a cropped length, lots of little vests, to use the Americanism, whether that's a sort of sleeveless cardigan, kind of slip over with a polo neck, or more like a waistcoat. We have some texture. There's a couple of like Aarony cable things. There's a couple of outliers here as well. All those things that I've just described could describe 1980s knitwear. And I was incredibly struck when I was looking at alternatives to this by this pattern called the Esther jacket from Petite Knits, because I don't know if you can see, it's this sort of like diamond motif between the cables. Ignore the cables, but between the cables there's this sort of diamond motif made with pearl stitches, almost identical to this Esther jacket. And from what I can see, it's quite carefully concealed in the product photos, but we've got seemingly no body shaping and a dropped shoulder. Just like this one. Yeah, no body shaping. Obviously I can't buy the patterns, so I can't see exactly how this works. The length is longer in the torso for this Esther jacket than for this one. I'll give you that. But when did the 80s come back into fashion? And why has nobody, when we talk about sort of vintage and retro revivals, why is nobody using the 80s association as a marketing point? Is that because we have such negative connotations of things that are 80s? But there's no denying it. There's no denying the connection. The 80s are back in fashion, not just in knitwear, but in other aspects of popular culture and popular fashion too. And yet nobody is, in this era of like hyper searchable SEO engagement terms, hashtagable things, nobody is focusing on the 1980s aspect of this. And as a fashion historian, I find that fascinating, that we are so prejudiced against the 80s that even the things that we actually liked about the 80s, we don't want to associate with. Mohair, drop shoulders, oversized fit, little waistcoats and vests, even like arguably cottagecore, Laura Ashley revival. Just something to think about there. So, on that note, basically, I think I'm carrying on with this. Largely because, what's the point of me buying? What's the point of me buying a digital pattern that will essentially give me this look if I already have this? Maybe I just need to get a strand of mohair in there and then I'll complete the look. Tick all the boxes. Fascinating. Fascinating. Is the lighting a bit better this way? Can't figure it out. But I have... oh, that was nearly a disaster. I need to get some scissors, really. I have been working on the fronts of this cardigan after my realisation about it being very similar to a petite knit. I've been working on this one. Can you see anything? A little. But I've mostly switched the camera on because I want to... This was a pattern that was like knit until it's this length and then I've got to make the other front to match and make sure that the pattern's the same. So for future reference, I did 4 repeats to the neck. I did then another repeat and I started casting off on the last, second to last row of, oh shit, I can't remember already. Yes, because I had to end with the wrong side facing, and that threw me a little bit because of the way they wrote it in the instructions. So on the last wrong side row, I started casting off, I did a row of pattern, and I cast off the remainder. So there we go. That's what I did for the front. What do you think? Let's hope it stretches, because that looks a bit small. So it's probably not going to be oversized. I just don't think I have the yarn to make it sort of oversized. If it ends up too small for me and I have to give it away, so be it, you know. But I think I like the pattern. I like the stylings of it so far. It's not going to be a massively dropped shoulder there, is it, as well? So that might be nice. Anyway, I'm bored of this. And also, with it being winter and with it going dark so quickly, knitting navy blue yarn, I'll need to get like a light, or a proper light, you know, for crafting, to knit this in the evenings. So I think I want to go back to this project. I've got both my fronts finished now. Ta-da! Did I show you this? I can't remember. Really pleased with how this is looking. I need to start on the sleeves. So I've been putting that off because I've got to start with the rib. And I don't like ribbing in this very fine 2-ply lamb's wool. And it's a long rib. So, like you often get on vintage knits. So I've been putting that off, but I think I want to start on those sleeves because I've still got this project in mind and I'm still in the flow of it. What I don't know whether I'm going to do is try and knit the sleeves 2 at a time, because I usually like to knit my sleeves 2 at a time. However, what I found with the fronts was that because of the stripes, that made it quite complicated, and the sleeves are going to end up wider than the fronts after all the increases. Do I want to be knitting them 2 at a time? Or should I, like, what I might do actually is work on one sleeve and then come back to this project and knit the other front and then knit the other sleeve and then try and finish the neckband for that, and then we'll have like a good start on this cardigan and we'll have finished that cardigan. So that's where I'm up to with stash busting. I still haven't sewn the buttons on my Aran cardigan for Woody, or just the Aran cardigan now, I suppose, because I need to go and get some more buttons, but I'm just not well enough to drive at the moment. So I could order some online, but I know I've got some in my stash. Because I think that will probably be the end of this video, is I'll film the reveal, if you like, of the Aran cardigan. I'll model the Aran cardigan for you. So I'm just kind of like having to come up with more to say until I put those buttons on. I suppose it makes the video a bit longer and maybe a bit more interesting. But yes, 107 is the total currently. I've got lots of projects in mind and on the go and things, so I feel like I'm in a really good place with my knitting at the moment. Hopefully, I'll be able to get these buttons on. I'm having a bit of a dilemma when it comes to the buttons for Woody's cardigan. Not Woody's cardigan anymore, my cardigan. The 1960s Aran cardigan because I want to use sort of traditional leather buttons, and I've got them, I picked them up in a charity shop. I've got a clip from one of my shorts here about that. But they're not washable leather buttons for obvious reasons. So I have to come up with a way to kind of rig them so that they're easy to take on and off. I've seen, and actually the people in the comments of that video had some really good suggestions. And so I think what I'm going to do is basically on my big button, put a small button on the back and then push the small button through the knitting of the fabric so that they sort of pop on or off. That's the best solution I have currently. So I have been to get some buttons, so should we give it a try, see what happens? So it finally has the buttons on. Now, as you can see, it's just kind of temporarily rigged. I did go and find some smaller buttons. It took me ages and I was going through my button stash. Didn't take the cardigan with me, did I? So I'm just there looking through like, oh yeah, those will be fine. And then actually they're over here. So these were the ones, these little white shank ones that I went for originally. I also dug out these clear plastic flat ones in case the shank ones didn't work. Both too big, can't get them through the rib of the fabric. So what I've essentially done is, I might change the way I've rigged this long bit. I don't think that's really working, but I've just strung the buttons onto a length of this coordinating yarn, and so they're sort of like weirdly tied on. I believe the Victorians used to do something similar to this. I've seen like historical examples and stuff of ladies' bodices and stuff that, and men's waistcoats that have this kind of wire rigging. So I've kind of recreated that with yarn. Now, as we know, the reality is I'm not really going to wear this cardigan anyway. I just want the buttons on so I can do it up and model it for you. That, sort of tie it in place. That should do it. So I'm hoping to get in the garden and model it, but it's not a very standy up day today. So just in case, let's just tuck that in. It smells very strongly of conditioner. You know how like scents take you back to a memory, a time and place much quicker than any other kind of cue? Well, at least they do for me. Yeah, this particular conditioner can pinpoint the show I was in, you know? If I put you over there and I sit more in this chair, how does that look? Was hoping I could get a collar and a tie to recreate the man on the cover who's wearing it. Oh dear. My system is not really working with the buttons, is it? Sort of, there. I think it's just the spread when we sit down. It is a shame. I do really like it, and it's made me think that I do want to knit another Aran style cardigan. After the controversy on that Tom Daly knitting show, I'm a bit nervous about using incorrect terms. So, Aran style cardigan. I deliberately wore like my most 70s outfit to kind of go with it. What do you think? Should we try and do some walking in the garden? It is a little bit Elizabeth II at Balmoral, isn't it? I mean, don't get me wrong, style icon in her own right.